Hi, guys, and welcome to the book reading of Zodiac Land. Okay, let's get into it. Chapter 1. The Gemini Zodiac Traders wage war at the Enchanted Castle. In the Zodiac Land, there was a king, the ruler of all zodiacs. He was a Sagittarius. The zodiacs all voted years ago that he was best suited for king of their beautiful lands. The king was great at managing happiness with his council, and what an extraordinary council they'd created. Every life in the council were considered important and precious, and they made sure to keep all fed, busy working, and happy. That was their code. Happy faces or leave their places. It was all working out just fine until this betrayal happened one day. Suddenly, there was a loud sound of doors being broken into. Someone was entering the castle uninvited. "Guards!" the king yelled, as they came rushing in to be a protection for him, his queen, and their 3 lads. "This is the Royal Zodiac Castle of Enchanted Forest, and I am the king. Who dares to enter this palace without the king's permission?" The king yelled as his guards blocked him from any harm. And then war breaks out. The guards was now fighting with multiple masked bull soldiers, the Tauruses. The queen screams and tries to run before being captured, knocked to the ground, and taken away by the masked soldiers. The king runs after the soldiers who has his wife when he is too captured. Their 3 children, Jason, Jane, and Jackson, all run when they see that the guardians are being of no match to the Taurus soldiers. They all run into the forest while being chased by the soldiers, and somehow they manage to be too fast for the soldiers to keep up. Jason, the oldest, tells them that he think their mom and dad is probably dead. "These soldiers are stronger than any normal Taurus zodiac that we have ever encountered," he says, while fidgeting his fingers nervously. He said to his brother and sister that they should split up and meet back up at the secret Zodiac pond, and then there is where they will try to figure out what they would do next. Jane tries to tell her brothers that she's never been to this secret pond, but the boys are too anxious to get away, so they didn't stop to listen. They all split up and she just runs, not knowing where she's going, but she keeps running. After running for hours, she's tired. She could hear no one was behind her anymore, so she sits down to rest. She wonders if her parents truly dead, as she imagined what they may have experienced before their deaths. She cries her eyes out thinking about them no longer being alive until she drifts off to sleep. Most zodiacs in the Zodiac Land were fully grown, and even the ones who wasn't yet grown still looked to be grown. This was because they all were born with maturity that most humans had to get over the age of 18 to receive. Jane was only 12, about to be 13 in the next 3 days. Her brothers were twins. They just turned 17 3 days before, and now they were all alone without any parents or homes. Soldiers were there to kill the king and queen, and they had no idea why. They were running to save their lives, but had no adult help or place to really go. At least, that's what Jane thought. Their parents had always taught them to be strong. After all, they were Zodiac royal family, the Sagittarius guardians. This would be words that their parents would say to them if they were there. "You are the Sagittarius royalty warriors. You stand up for yourselves and others who cannot protect themselves. You be smart and strong, and you never give in to evil," the king would say. "You are both man and horse. You have 4 strong legs, 2 masculine arms, and a body of a god. We are more powerful than any zodiac that will ever exist, and we will always own that title." The boys will always be in war training camp from the age of 3, so they were built for this madness. But Jane, she was only a girl. She wasn't allowed to practice with the boys or attend the war camp. Jane would always want to attend, but the king would always say a little training wasn't enough for her. He said she was extremely special, and that kind of training wasn't meant for her. The camp was held on the palace's grounds by the king and his Zodiac sergeant warriors. And Jane, she never understood what her father meant by that. So she would still practice everything he teach the boys. She'd mirror them while watching from her bedroom window with her girlfriend. Jane dreamed about all of her good days with her parents as she slept. She pictures her mother telling her to fly when she was a much younger girl. She could never remember if she ever did, but she sure wished she could. She awakens to her name being called. Jane! Her brothers Jason and Jackson call through the forest to her. Jane, they say, where are you? She gets up to her feet. Over here, brothers, she yells back to them. They run to the sound of their sister's voice. Thank heavens you're okay, Jason says to her as he reached her. Jackson says, why didn't you come to the pond, sis? We waited for you. I tried to tell y'all, I've never been there before. You guys ran off and left me, she replied. Then all of a sudden, rumbling noises explode in her direction. The masked Taurus soldiers were coming at them again. Run, Jane, Jason says. Run, we'll hold them off. Jane said, no, I'm not leaving y'all again. Jason says, Mom and Dad would kill us if anything happened to you. Jane, you run now. We are warriors. We got this. She hesitates when a bull runs at her, but her brother Jason drop kicks him in the face, knocking him on his back. She takes off again. This time her body seems to be going in slow motion as she wishes to stand with her brothers and fight. But they were her twin big brothers and she'd always follow their instructions. Even though she didn't want to, it was the way their royal family operates. So she kept running and running as the rumbling noises got lesser, then silent. She kept running while looking back, hoping to see her brothers coming behind her. They were not coming, and she hoped nothing bad had happened to them, when suddenly something hard knocked her off her feet. Boom! The sound of metal against her body penetrates the city streets. Her body slides across the intersection and into a light pole. Cars screeching as they all come to a stop, trying to avoid hitting this little girl. Dad, it's a girl, a young man says as he runs from one of the vehicles to her aid. He shields her body with his as his dad turns the vehicle to block incoming traffic. Is she alright, son? His dad asks as his son hurdles over her checking for signs of life. I'm not sure, Pops, but I'm bringing her with us, he says. We can take her to the hospital. Then he lifts her up in his arms, burly and strong, and brings her to their vehicle. They take her to the city hospital. A few hours later, Jane awakes from her accident. Her body is sore, and she is in a small bed that she doesn't recognize. She struggles to get up, but her legs wouldn't allow her to. The young man and his father who brought her was still there, standing outside of her room. When he sees that she's awake, he immediately runs to her side. His dad stays outside of the room, peering through the window. As his son introduces himself to her, he says, Hi, miss. My name is Travis, and my father and I brought you here after your accident happened on the interstate. Jane pulled away from him as he tried to hold her hand. What? She said in confusion. She didn't understand. Why was this human person talking to her? Her parents always told them to stay away from the humankind if they were ever to meet one. But she was now surrounded by them and in a tiny little bed in a tiny little room. What had happened to her, she thought. She had no idea what was going on. So she remembered her mother telling her to always use her wits, no matter what or where she was. And since these humans didn't seem to be afraid of her or of any danger, instead of acting like she'd never seen a human before, she quickly adjusted. She said, "I apologize, sir. But who are you again? And what happened to me, you say?" she asked. The boy responded, "I'm Travis, and that man looking through your window is my dad, Mr. Travis Sr. He said, we found you in the middle of the interstate. You had just been hit by a truck. My dad and I decided to bring you to this hospital in hopes that you'd be okay. And I'm glad to see that you are. The doctors say that you have a fractured ankle and a few bruised ribs. But other than that, you should be okay in a few weeks. Is there anyone you like us to call, like family or someone close to come get you?" he asked. Jane replies saying, "Wait, what's a fractured ankle?" Travis says, "This part of your leg right here by your foot is the ankle." He lifts up the cover, revealing her legs and pointing to her ankle. She looks down and screams. "What's this?" she says. "What happened?" she yells frantically while trying to remove herself from the bed. Travis embraces her. "It'll be okay. It's just a fractured ankle, I promise that you won't die," he says while rubbing her long, beautiful hair. She is terrified by the sight she's just seen of her gone body, but she must keep it together before the humans suspect something isn't right about her. But what in the hell had happened? She wondered. Who was she, and where was she? Travis said, "Can I call your parents to come help you?" She replied, "No, my parents may be dead," then holds her head down. Travis said, "I'm sorry to hear that. Why do you think that?" "What has happened to them?" he asks. "I don't know," she responds. "My brothers told me to run, and I just ran." "Ran?" Travis says. "Ran from whom?" "Who are you running from?" She responds, "I don't want to talk about it anymore. Please leave me be." He says, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Is there anything that I can do for you? Would you like to go home with us? We could take care of you until you're better. Then hopefully we can help you find your parents." Jane's not really paying attention to what he's saying. She's wondering who she is at this point. She says, "Can I see me? Are there mirrors here?" Travis says, "Yes. Let me get one for you." He gives her a mirror and she looks at her face. It's unrecognizable. She felt her back and her feathers were no longer there. Her body felt different. She no longer had 4 legs, but 2, and they were human form. She no longer had hoofs. They were now feet with toes. What in God's heaven, she thought. Her parents had never told her that she would ever have this experience. Her brothers had grown their wings at age 13, but she was born with hers. She wondered, was something else going to change on her body as she turns 13? But why human? Her parents wasn't human, and there was no one in their land that was completely human. But here she sits now completely human looking and completely lost. What was she to do now? And how would she get back to her land? She looked up as Travis stood over her, asking, could he be of any more help to her? She said, "I just want to be alone right now. Please leave," she asked again in a soft, lonely voice. Travis noticed the change in her voice and agreed. He walked out of the room. And that's the end of chapter 1, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 2 with you guys because, like I said, I wanted to get this book over with in less than a week. And let me inform you of this. I started not to do this book because, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but very fortunately, I have gotten a lot of interest on my books recently. It's a beautiful thing. And plus, I'm a mukbanger, and I'm supposed to be giving you guys creative content. And I know this is creative content, but this is also book sales, you guys. Book sales. So I got to focus on my book sales and do season 2. I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.